the city-county cooperation here, and Zoom meetings are going to become more the norm in the future. We've kind of gotten used to it, and it's very effective in a lot of ways, and I think people are going to become dependent on that. So, and then, I think it's a win situation.
This is Councilman Boebert. One of the things I kind of wanted to expand that just beyond economic recovery and to economic development in general. Mm-hmm. One of the things I feel like, and this meeting's kind of a great start for that, but we don't have a ton of coordination between the county and the city. Is that something that you think, whether we could have like a task force meeting that meets quarterly, or something that's really just focused on economic development and the things that we can kind of bring to this community to help businesses that exist here already, as well as try to bring new business to the county? Would that be something that you'd be interested in?
So pre-COVID, and this was before your time on the board, we had a quarterly meeting with the mayors and managers of all the municipalities, the county. The tribe was also invited, although I don't remember them attending, and we do that at a breakfast quarterly. At our board-to-board meeting with Mancus last week, they recommended that we reconvene that, and I'm certainly open to it.
And that really is a place where we can function quarterly to discuss those types of items, and it could be just economic recovery and what we're doing. So, like I said, we have accepted Mancus's offer. We are obviously extending our hand to you guys to join us again and start moving forward.
Amy, did you have something you wanted to add? You look like you're gonna unmute.
Yeah, hi everybody. I was just gonna touch back in as far as getting on track with the recovery. I don't know if it's something that we could also like team up, not just commissioners and council, but also.
He went dead.
I think you actually mute yourself.
Can't hear you, Amy.
Can you hear me now?
There you go.
Yes, now.
I'm sorry. I might have to go into a video. I was trying it with a video. So you heard nothing?
Go back like 10
Can you hear me?
seconds.
Yeah. You're good.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess just to briefly cover what I said, I was just trying to touch in on the, not only just combining our forces with commissioners and council potentially, but drawing in other resources as far as grant funding for businesses, or as far as getting businesses into the enterprise zone, stuff that could actually help our businesses. Just talking about what COVID is doing, or waiting for vaccines, or herd immunity, is just kind of gesticulating. So potentially we could lay out a format with working with different sectors to actually get the arms reaching to our downtown, to our, the other folks out in the county as well. But I think that we might just be talking about the city tonight. Does anybody have any ideas about other forces we could combine with?
I think we need to start with the business owners and get their input and stop dictating to them how they ought to operate. And I may be speaking out of turn from my board.
We have trouble hearing that speaker.
I'm sorry. I may be speaking out of turn for my board, but I feel we need to get the hell out of the way and let the businesses operate.
So we had that one business where folks from the business, came and spoke, and they kind of, what I took from it was wanted more transparency, wanted more conversation. We didn't even really get any action items. So potentially we could hold another one of those type of meetings, but I would urge that we get some action items from that. We get some to-dos, because the time is now to act.
So the first action item they asked for was that the council members walk up and down Main Street and meet the business owners and listen to them. So I'm just curious which of the council members have started doing that.
Can you hear me now? This is Mayor Levy. When we were giving out the applications for relief funds for COVID, I went around to every business on Main Street, from Maple down to Walmart, and the ones on the outside of Main Street, and talked to those businesses. I gave them the applications, and I asked them how they were doing. I spent days talking to the business owners there, all of them, everyone that was open. I spoke to them, and it's very informative to talk to the business owners and see how things are going, and they appreciate that the fact that the city is listening to them. So I'd encourage anyone to do that also.
And what were your takeaways from those conversations? Did they give any specifics?
Some people didn't get the applications. Some weren't sure how to do it. Some had already done it. Some had already received their funds. But I was surprised at how many people didn't know about it. The fact that they could receive economic assistance for the COVID. So I think we need to get the word out there to the business community better.
I'm just curious, were those business owners that you visited that were open wearing masks?
It was a mixed bag. Some were, some weren't. I had a mask.
I think one of the big needs of our community is internet, and then having an online presence. I think maybe helping some businesses, and I don't know if that's a role that we can play, county or city, but helping businesses get funds to get a website set up, get a Facebook page set up, be able to sell products online. I think we're past the days of getting business through word of mouth. A lot of people search things. A lot of people check Facebook before they check an actual company's website to see updates, to see change of hours, to see what they're selling. But not a lot of people have access to, or have the funds to pay for someone to build a website and maintain it for them, or have the know-how. So how can we find, I guess, solutions for businesses to be more versatile and kind of reach a broader audience and potentially pull money from outside the county?
I think that's part of what the tri-chambers are trying to do. They've actually been working with businesses to increase their presence online, because that is kind of what they do.
And I think our extension office has partnered some of their kids that have to do projects with the businesses to help them do that.
Correct. So I think that we are doing that. For the county, we look at all three municipalities. So that's why we function with that tri-chambers meeting quite frequently. And then we've had discussions with other people within the municipalities of what are we and what are we not doing.
Mm-hmm.
The first immediately we put out, obviously, the $100,000 and some worth of grants to get businesses something to work with immediately. And then obviously the stimulus package came out, which you guys along with us, like Mayor Levy stated, we were putting that out there. So I think we've done a pretty fair job along just with the national news that it's out there. If you need help, the help is there. Is all you have to do is reach out. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it would be great for us to just let the bakers bake, like the people that are already doing the work, if we could support them in any way to help get further out into the community, maybe them going and business to business and seeing if they can offer their services, and maybe us providing in some way like assistance, like helping to pay for some scholarships or whatever for them to be able to get those services.
Or just help spread the word.
Yeah.
At least.
Because it would create more burden for us as a municipality, you as the county, to bring in another person to do something that's already being done.
Correct, and we don't want to duplicate it. We don't need to do that, and they're doing a pretty good job
Yeah.
of trying to reach out. Susan Lysick was in here a couple weeks ago. They're now getting ready to develop another online presence, and they want it to go into print form, and it was for relocation.
Yeah. It's a
So
relocation day.
that's just another aspect. I don't know if she has been
I
to
don't
talk
think
to
she's
you
been
guys
here
as a
yet.
council yet. Obviously, it came, and we realized it. She realizes that it was after our budgets have all been approved. So now, now it's an issue of can we save, can we cut, what can we do, and what can we not do to work to fund it.
Right.
So I don't want to reinvent or duplicate anything that's already being done, but I would like to support it, because we need to support our businesses in all municipalities equally and get it moving along as quickly as we can. Like Commissioner Stevenson said, we got to get them back to work. We got to get them functioning. So.
Do you think our community would benefit, or we would benefit from another, like Makeda, like a
We've got Region 9.
right, but just county focused, but that has like a representation from each city and.
Was
And the
Makeda
county.
effective when it was here?
I'm gonna pose that question to Mr. Dobry. He could be.
I like a lot of things. One of the issues is with a specific nonprofit like that, you end up spending a lot of time trying to pay to keep the lights on, and that's one of the reasons why I was asking about kind of an economic development office, or whether it could be a partnership between the county and the city, where then that person could be focused on actual out-the-door economic development all the time, rather than dues collecting and that taking up half the time of that position.
And I think what our administrator just stated also, that Region 9 is back over here. They're on, I think it's Thursdays again. They're back in their office. They're functioning. They're working. So they actually do have a presence here, and then they're obviously available every day through their Durango office. So I think Region 9 is doing a pretty good job. I don't know, there again, I don't want to duplicate something if we have something that's working. And I think from the success stories that I've seen coming out of Region 9, I think they're doing a pretty good job.
Yeah, and I think them working with the tri-chambers, I think the tri-chambers give us a pretty good countywide representation. I feel Susan is certainly stepped up in being a leader, and Maggie is contributing. One concern I have about the tri-chambers is what is the situation with the Cortez Chamber? How are they playing a role in that? And is there something that we ought to be considering to jumpstart them?
Anybody want to take that one? Mayor Levy, you want to take that one?
Well, I've spoke with Rocky, and she stepped back from being part of the Cortez Chamber of Commerce. But I think if we got another person to replace Rocky, that might help. Right now, it's just Susan and Maggie. So we probably could use a third person here in Cortez.
And how do you recommend we go about doing that?
Advertise.
I think their board, the Cortez Chamber actually has a board, correct? So I haven't spoken with them lately, but I think, they understand the situation and they're probably working on it. I think that was one of the reasons why they had an ask, because we know that our lodger's tax that we distribute within the county, I think last year was around $160,000, and we split that between 7 or 8 organizations like Mesa Verde Country, Cortez Chamber, Mancos Chamber, Dolores Chamber, so on. But if that lodger's tax is reduced by the 60%, which they're projecting, there's not going to be a lot of money to go around at any of these agencies. Now that board then comes to us, and then we give it our approval, and then those funds are distributed. But I don't know, do you all contribute to that? I know you probably have something different within the city, because the lodger's tax that we look at is countywide.
We have, with the city lodger's tax funds Mesa Verde Country, as well as we also fund it through general operating.
So Mesa Verde Country is also funded through us, and I want to say they are probably the largest share of funding. Is that correct, Administrator? That we give. I can
Mesa
actually
Verde
look it up.
Country gets a fair share, but the Cortez Chamber doesn't receive anything from the county lodging tax. Mesa Verde
Correct.
is separate from the Cortez Chamber, and because the city of Cortez has their own lodging tax, we don't fund that, although because the other visitor centers and chambers in the other municipalities are linked, we fund them. But the city of Cortez has their own lodging tax, and so we have not contributed to the city of Cortez chamber in the past.
I don't even think they've submitted for part of that grant funding, if my memory serves me correctly.
No.
They don't even apply for that.
Okay, so just to kind of wrap up this topic, because we've got 4 others. It seems like then that there are entities out there who are doing the work directly with businesses. So maybe as the governmental role, we need to just see what we can do to be more business friendly. Look at our policies, look at our land use and our application processes, and then also kind of be a help with the outreach that organizations are doing. You know, kind of be a platform for people to spread their message as well. So if the public could help us with, since, we don't personally, some of us don't personally own businesses and haven't gone through that process, so we don't know what the hurdles are up front.
I think as the government, whether it's city or county government, the more business friendly that we all can be, I think that by far the better off we can be. I know that our planning department, we have people coming through here all of the time. If one thing that we've considered and talked about is having better than just monthly meetings, because our planning commission only meets monthly right now. But right now they're efficient, they're effective, and meeting monthly is okay. It's working for them. But if we see that it's going to be a hang up or it's slowing the process down, we are going to make it move quicker. Because we can control that, because time is money right now, and it's their livelihood. And if you have to wait a month for this meeting, then a month for the next meeting, and 4 months down the road, that's a long period of time, instead of moving it every week or every other week to make the process go quicker. I realize that puts a little bit more burden on staff, but right now our staff is being able to do it. And I don't know about your staff, but I think if we can remove some of the hurdles and the roadblocks, we're all going to be more successful. So, all right, we'll move on to substance use and mental health. Did any of you guys on Zoom have anything to add to that? I'm sorry, I didn't look up.
I don't, no.
I'm good.
All right, thanks, guys. Okay, now you want to talk about substance use and mental health. So
I'll kick the conversation off. I know in both of our public safety meetings that we've had with the new commission that the sheriff, the DA, the coroner, and the emergency manager have all underlined the tremendous issue that we have in our community with both of these issues, and they're not going away. We are getting some funding through the nationwide opioid settlement, although ours is going to be a drop in the bucket. But basically, like everything else, we're going to be left on our own to solve the problem. I think what has happened in the past is that we've spent time dealing with land use codes, and does the carport match the house, and putting in medians and paving 60 more miles of county roads, and we've ignored some of the real situations that's facing our community. And I think it's time that we step up and deal with it. I would recommend for both boards, for reading material, that you read the book Dreamland to understand the opioid crisis, and the book Crazy by Pete Early, and that we begin to educate ourselves and start working together to come up with the real problems that our community is facing.
You know, I'm going to kind of address the opioid crisis funding through what we are going to get and receive, and it hasn't been finalized, but we were talking about this in a Zoom meeting with other commissioners from around the state about pooling our money, because if you look at the breakout of that for the city, for the county, it's really I don't even consider it a drop in the bucket, because it's spread out over 19 years. So the funding that we are going to receive for the county, which obviously are larger than the city, I think it equates to about $22,000 to $24,000 a year, which that's not.
I mean, we could
really
buy
not
some
effective.
Narcan. That's not even a part-time
So
position.
how do we work together collectively to pool our funds together to maybe make something work?
And I've had this conversation with all of the municipal managers, and they're all initially on board with pooling our resources to do the best that we can. But even at that, it's a little over $3 million spread out over 19 years. So one way, and I'm just throwing this out there, since we are guaranteed it's going to be court ordered that the money comes in, we could all contribute our part. The county's is $400,000 to an upfront project, knowing that we will all be reimbursed over the 19 years.
And then to keep it sustainable, could we introduce any sort of tax on like marijuana or alcohol, or people that are caught for those kind of crimes with drug use, to move some of those funds over to keep like a treatment facility sustainable?
I don't, and our attorney, I think, is still on Zoom, and correct me, John, but I don't think that you can single out any one particular occupancy or industry and tax them more than you can anybody else. So if you have a sales tax, it has to be equal across the board. So you can't alcohol or marijuana, you can't say, hey, we're going to impose a 10% tax on you and everybody else gets taxed 5%. I don't think that's legal. And John, correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, you can't necessarily treat industries differently, but certainly marijuana has a certain tax that the city imposes, and it is up to the city what they do with that tax. So can you raise it and then just decide to allocate it to a certain purpose? I think, yes, that's certainly legal.
So you guys could allocate, say, 1/4%. I don't know. I'm just throwing out there. But you have that flexibility because you have a sales tax. We don't have a sales tax, so we can't manage any funds in that manner.
So I feel like all of these topics deserve their own individual meeting, which I hope that we can have. It would be interesting to figure out a way for us all to contribute equally or equitably to something like a treatment facility within our region. And I think it's possible. We just need to be creative and and get over those roadblocks.
I think it's more the sustainability part of it,
Yeah.
because that's,
I think we could come up with the initial building. If that was the case, 3 million would get us a type of facility, especially if one of us were to donate the land and we were to waive all the hurdles that we put in the way with landscaping and codes and crap like that. But how do you staff that year after year? How do you buy the facilities? And any one of our departments, bar none, the largest expense is payroll.
Well, no, I think that would be a great way for the county and the city, as well as the other municipalities, to work together. I think the county could probably help us get something started, and then the city and towns all have marijuana facilities, and could maybe earmark some of that money specifically to fund whether it's a treatment center or the police chief has brought up a non-police response that would be more of like a medical response to drug and mental health issues in the community, to fund something like that. I think that would be a perfect start for us to work all to work together.
Not only that, but like once the facility's up and running, that stuff, like those wages and whatnot, could be paid out through Medicaid and other insurances, would it not? Talking about sustainability.
I can't answer that because I haven't looked at
It probably could, but I don't
Yeah.
know how.
So something like a tax to keep the place operating, so that portion of sustainability, and then having services billed out to insurance providers and Medicaid, Medicare, whatnot. I don't know if Medicare would do that.
Oh, like you said, I think
Again,
this
these
is
all
something
warrant their own
that, I mean,
meeting.
this is another big topic that has been going on now for, gosh, decades. And we still don't have a real good answer to it at all. So. Oh, go ahead, I'm sorry, David.
Can I make a suggestion at this point? David Rainey. I think how we go about this is that we come up with a plan. And I know that's pretty broad speculation, but I think if we develop a plan, then we'll have a better idea of the cost, what we need to assess, things like that, and a direction, rather than just talking about it. I think we need to move forward, and certainly the commissioners and the city council, this is something we need to address, but let's come up with a plan first.
Well, since you brought it up, I happen to have a plan that I borrowed from Shelby County, Ohio, for a sheriff's run transitional and rehabilitation facility. I'd be happy to email it to all the council member and board members, but we would also have to get the sheriff, law enforcement officers, district attorney, and chief judge on board with it, but I would be happy to send it out for everyone's review.
I think that's where we should start.
I've read this, and it looks real promising.
Well, I like to see action. So if we have to, gosh, I'm tired of saying like subcommittees, but if we have to make a subcommittee to make this work, I would be happy to participate in that subcommittee.
It
I
seems
would
like,
also.
it seems like we would need to, or want to involve Access at well, because that would open up funding, ideas, staff.
Both municipalities, Axis,
Yeah.
the district attorney, the sheriff, the judge, and Justin Goodall and Vern Knuckles,
You're going to have to involve the hospital
and the
and
hospital.
EMS responders,
Correct.
Yep.
And probably schools as well.
Schools.
and probably social
And
services.
now we've got an
Yeah.
unmanageable board.
Let's just bring them all in. Great. Good conversation.
So, Shak, if you'll send that out to all of the council members, and then they can start reviewing that also, and then that'll move on with the plan. Next, we're going to go down to the next item, unless I don't see any other hands up there. So we're going to go to your master streets plan. Who wants to take this one?
I guess I will. Just because I started work when I was on the P and Z for the city, we started working on the master streets plan, so it's kind of coming to fruition. I think that's just a great opportunity for the city and county to plan together on growth and what it's going to look like and where it's going to be focused and how we're going to make sure that our streets align and that we're, maintaining a good right-of-way so that we know which streets are likely to expand, and we're kind of just set up for that growth. So I've heard, and this is out of city limits, but I've heard quite a few people recommend that they want to see Cortez and the county grow to the south, because that's where we don't really have farmland. All of our good farmland is to the north. So if we could focus residential and commercial and industrial kind of development and expansion to the south, then we can still preserve our agricultural lifestyle while accommodating a bigger population. But then that comes in, into question water situation, obviously the canyon and trying to get bridges across the canyon. I don't know. But with the Master Streets Plan, they're having a public meeting for the public to comment and look at the Master Streets Plan tomorrow evening. So
is that at your?
It's
building?
via Zoom. Yeah, but it's maybe Shak can send out the invite or the link, to everybody. But it'd be a good way to kind of see how the public feels about it, and for you guys to look over the Master Streets Plan. So that's at 5:30 tomorrow evening, and if that doesn't work for people's schedule in the public, they're having another one this Saturday at 10 a.m.
And who's hosting that?
The City of Cortez, their planning department.
And I'm supposed to send out the Zoom link?
Okay, we'll have the city send out the Zoom link to the commissioner.
She'll get it to you, Shak, and then you can send it out.
Yeah.
I don't know, going south, there is probably 5 of the biggest farms in Montezuma County lay to the south of Cortez.
Okay.
And so that's something that will have to be looked at, because they are the biggest farms in Montezuma County are south of Cortez.
What about east?
East,
Do whatever.
nothing between here and Mesa Verde.
I think
That's good to know.
when you start looking at the whole map, you'll be able to identify, the places where it can grow and develop, and that's,
But there is a corridor going south that would be good business corridor too, between the farms and the city limits and stuff that would be a good place for business.
And then it brings up the other topic of like a truck route that would route trucks around the city instead of straight through it. I know people worry that would decrease business, but there's other aspects that it might increase business because they're not fighting with truck traffic. I don't know.
Well, in some of those areas where there's no farms, it gives the opportunity to create businesses that you would want to roll trucks into and out of.
Okay.
As far as hurting businesses, I mean, El Grande usually doesn't have an 18-wheeler parallel parked out in front.
But when you go somewhere, you're going to take the quickest, fastest route you can drive.
Correct.
And there's a bypass route laid out down south, and the fear of Cortez was always the development of that bypass. And in essence, that's what you're building, is a bypass for Cortez.
And that bypass goes through one of the biggest farms in Montezuma County, lays on both sides of that road. So
Is that H or G?
that would be.
That's G. It's
Would be
Yeah, Road G.
Okay.
So, I mean, we'll look at your master street plan as far as how it affects us, as far as just alignment for something that goes back out into the county. I think most of those thoroughfares are already there, but obviously, in case it develops further, I think we do that all the time anyway.
Occasionally, I like to interject some inappropriate humor, so if we get CDOT involved, we could just build a bridge over those private farms.
So,
Anybody?
if that's,
We could buy
anybody
one in
else on the
Oglala
master
County.
street plan? Nope. All right, we'll go to drought and water. Who wants to take that one?
Whew, we could just rewatch this afternoon's episode.
Yeah.
I've been working on it all day.
So, we'll talk about it a little bit, drought and water. Obviously, we are still in a drought, and, this moisture that we just currently had has brought us up, hopefully, I think, somewhere into the 80 percentile. But we still have a lot of time left this year. So, we did have a meeting this afternoon talking about nothing but water. It started at 1:30. It was about an hour and 15 minutes long. I would recommend that you all go back and look at it. And it talks about how we got to this situation that we're in right now, the over-allocation of all of our water on the Colorado River, and really where we're at. So that's something that we as commissioners are heavily involved with CWCB, the roundtable right here locally, and with all of our water entities, DWCD and then MBIC also. So for water for you all, what is your, drought, how do you guys want to reduce or what's your plan?
I'm not sure who put it on there.
I know Phil Johnson has presented several times on the topic.
Yeah.
Yeah, the city has a conservation plan for water, and we implement ordinances or, for water restrictions. But does the county have something similar? Or?
Well, ours is actually a little bit different because we have irrigation water, and where you have just your municipal water.
And the city owns the municipal water. We don't own the
We don't
irrigation.
own
Correct.
water, yeah.
So, yeah, we do not own the water. It's all to shareholders. So it's kind of, their allocations are set by basically the criteria of MBIC or DWCD of we have 80% of our allocation and you may get it shut off
Right.
August or September.
And
they just look at it to what really, how much water that they do have.
Yeah, that's not domestic water, that's irrigation water. M&I is through Montezuma Water Company. Mancus Rural Water and City Dolores runs theirs. And
Well, and while you're speaking about M&I, is there a concern, and I don't know, I don't see Mike Green on here, but maybe he could speak to this, but I think I heard somewhere that actually the city's water, as far as the water courts are concerned, might still be considered irrigation and not M&I, which in the case of a compact call could be a problem.
I don't see them on there, so it's just a question. You guys can write that down. I don't know. We don't know
It's something
obviously
you
what it is.
need to look into.
So it sounds like there's not a lot of overlap regarding drought and water when it comes to the county and the city.
So
Just
I don't know Arlena, the county's going to put out a video. Well, we're going to work on it tomorrow. It may go out Thursday instead of tomorrow night. But there are certain things that we can all work on. One of them is the eradication of noxious weeds that consume too much water, especially free adiphytes such as Russian olives and salt cedars, and fixing the soil. And the county has a great composting program through our landfill, helping the soil to effectively utilize water, and then thinking about using water responsibly and how we do that. I do know one of the things the county does have is an ordinance that you can't get your irrigation water all over the county road. I do know that. So
I think
those
that's more
types of
through
things.
MVIC. I don't think that's actually a county ordinance at all.
Yeah, the
It's a it's a MVIC, which is part of their, and I think it's part of their compact.
You know,
It may
might
be, but there's a
county
road and bridge deal.
Yeah,
You
there's a
cannot
road and
water-
bridge deal.
Yeah.
that
You
can't-
cannot get water on the county roads because it erodes the road.
Right.
Yeah, because I know
Yeah,
the Sheriff's Department.
it's a state statute. No, I don't think it's a county ordinance. Maybe we do have a county ordinance that I don't know about, but it is a state statute.
Thank you,
Okay.
John.
So it sounds like our best collaboration is just on the education piece when it comes to drawing water.
Right, I mean,
And
you
then
can,
planting
you can do a lot
responsibly.
with that. I mean, you know, you can look at restrictive shower heads. They used to put a brick in the tank cup behind your water closet. A lot of your summer water goes lawn watering, and you guys have restrictions there. But what happens is a lot of lawns don't get aerated or dethatched, so the water's just going down, not subsurface, but it's laying there on the surface and evaporating. The roots are really shallow, and if you can encourage those roots to go down, I know this because I have a lawn that looks like crap, and I couldn't figure out why. But you know, I got with a couple of guys, and this is what they recommended, and there's stuff you can spray on your lawn. You can, and a soil amendment is wonderful. I mean, there's stuff you can put in your soils that'll really help.
And I want to give a shout out to the Cortez Sanitation District. When they put in their new press, they conserved a lot of water to
Yeah.
put back in McComo Creek, and it dried out their biosolids a lot. And so shout out to Cortez Sanitation District.
Don't see anything up there.
Yeah, this is Mike, Mayor Mike. I'd like to emphasize that the city, under Phil Johnson's group, is working actively in conserving water and different methods of conserving it. Toilets, shower heads, and drought-resistant plants, tips on how to, what times to water your plants, and how much you should water them. So there's about 12 stakeholders involved, staff members, council members, mayor, and other people involved. So we're very concerned with saving water in the city, but of course in the county too. And you know, the great majority of that water goes for watering lawns. So probably the best thing we can do is to put in maybe gravel or some kind of xeriscaping landscape, drought-resistant bushes or trees. So there's a lot of ways we can help with water conservation.
Okay, thank you, Mike.
You bet.
The next bullet point on your list is the collaboration projects between the city and the county, and what could we work on together?
So I wrote that down.
Okay.
I just wanted it to be more of like a note that if there are projects that you guys have been thinking about or that we have been thinking about that we think would do well as a collaboration, maybe like future planning, that we should at some point come together and talk about feasibility, and that way we can align our projects and make sure we use our time and our resources properly. So it was more of just like a comment on if we do have future projects.
Okay. Do you have, what do you have in your pipeline right now as far as future projects? Do you have anything that would cross over with us or jointly? Do you have anything?
I don't have anything specific in mind, but I'm just thinking about a couple of different projects that you've brought up that you've wanted to see if we could collaborate on, and like I said, it'd just be good if you already know that there's projects in the works or like that will be here in the next couple of years, that it would be good to start planning sooner than later to see if we can make it work, like for us to work together on it. So I don't have anything specific right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Very good.
Does anyone in the Zoom world have some ideas for projects they'd like to see?
Is homeless on their agenda tonight?
No, but we can talk about whatever we want to talk about.
Okay. Well, I think that might be some area that we could collaborate the homeless problem in Montezuma County and Cortez, if it's not already on the agenda, it might be something we could entertain talking about.
Go ahead, Mike. We'll let you lead that off if you want to start that
Yeah,
discussion.
okay. Well, I've been working with Jim Spratlen, the emergency manager. I'm on the homeless task force, and we're looking to coordinate, the different agencies, the bridge shelter, and the county, and the city, and the police department, access, hospitals, dealing with the homeless situation here. It's especially in time of COVID, it brings up a new wrinkle in the mix, and the weather is changing now. It's colder and snowy. So the fact that people are out in this outside, freezing, some freezing to death. It's a serious situation, and a lot of times people fall between the cracks. They don't necessarily qualify for the bridge shelter because they might have animals, dogs or something. So it's maybe somehow we can get together and talk about these people that fall through the cracks.
Mayor, when I was in Salt Lake City this summer, one thing that they had downtown was they had repurposed all their old parking meters, and they had become collection devices for the groups, probably the LDS Church and maybe some other nonprofits that were helping the homeless. And while the city of Cortez doesn't have a bunch of parking meters, I think one way to get funds for like the Good Samaritan Center, the bridge, something like that, would be the places where some of the homeless people hang out, Walmart, City Market and stuff. If the property owners were interested in putting these meters in, that would give people a safe place to donate without feeling like they're enabling what could potentially be a bad habit.
That's an idea.
That's a good idea.
So I'm going to have to ask this question, Mayor. So we talk about homeless or people that just don't want to go home. I mean, that's two different people, and we obviously have that in our community. How do we distinguish that difference? Because I mean,
I feel like that's where the substance abuse, that center could play in, and the that response force that Access and the city police are putting together.
correct, which is part of that program that I think they're within the next year. They want to have it functioning by 2022.
And I mean, there's always going to be folks that just don't want any of that.
Right.
So that's going to
Sorry.
be, I think that's always going to be a factor. But I think that the majority of the folks that are experiencing homelessness are not there by choice, or maybe their circumstances have caused them to be there. And we're just talking about the folks that are using the shelter, right? But there's plenty of folks that are homeless, that are doubled up, families that are doubled up, that we don't see, that equally need a roof over their heads, maybe to get out of a bad situation, what have you.
I think a good term to think of when speaking about this population could be the unhoused folks. So kind of thinking about maybe we don't get to judge if they want to go home or not, just thinking about the fact that they don't get a roof over their head, and trying to enable them safety at night, especially during the winter months, but also continuance 365 days a year. I guess speaking with the commissioners, I mean, we have what we have in plan for Cortez, but thinking about what's happening with the unhoused population in Dolores, or as well in Mancos, And is there a need for a bigger facility somewhere in the county, or what steps could be taken as far as county-wide safety for the unhoused population?
I'd have to find the statistic again, but I sent it to our council members after, I think, the first time the homelessness discussion was brought up. But it costs a lot of money to the taxpayer for people to be unhoused and to be out in the cold, and for them to have recidivism and having to utilize the ER again and again and again. It's really costly to the taxpayers. So again, I'd have to find the statistic in the article, and I can send it to you folks as well.
Okay.
I think it's something like 40,000 a year.
And one thing that both the commission and the council need to at least have an understanding of is that through this process we've been in with COVID since March of last year, there have been statewide and federal prohibitions on evictions. Currently, those are set to expire at the end of March. And just to make people aware, a lot of people haven't been evicted for non-payment, but it's likely in April that there's going to be a tsunami of evictions.
And then that'll make it more difficult for them to find housing on the second time around.
Correct, which is just another point going back to the economy and the recovery. We need to do everything that we can to get
Get
people
these
back
people back to work so they can afford to pay their rent and
So-
buy groceries and.
That to me still is the biggest glaring factor of anything that we have to deal with, is people need to get back to work.
And if anyone's listening out there on YouTube land, I don't know whether they are or not, but Ironwood, the mill out of outside of Dolores there on 145, is trying to hire 30 positions. And I know that's a long way if you don't have transportation, but we happen to have a transportation department that can offer rides. So
That's correct, we do. And they can give you a ride to work and back. So that's a lot of positions that are open up. That gets 30 people hopefully working so that they can pay and don't become homeless.
I think that leads into another, unless someone else has something to say about this topic, but we could transition into transportation,
Okay.
because I think that's a good.
Rachel, before you get into the next topic, I just wanted to add another book. It's called Nomad Land, Surviving America in the 21st Century. And it's a book that was written a couple years ago, and there's going to be a movie on Hulu on the 19th of this month, and it's been advertised quite a bit. And it's all about unhoused people living in their vehicles, working different jobs. They work at Walmart and Sam's Club, Amazon, and they travel around the country living in their RVs or cars or whatever. And it's kind of a whole new subculture of people. A lot of them are elderly people on pensions, Social Security, that can't afford their homes, or they lose their homes. And it's a kind of interesting way to look at life for people who fall between the cracks again, that just can't afford a house, so they live in their car. And in order to pay for the groceries and gas and taxes and everything, they have to get these labor-intensive jobs. So I would recommend reading that book or watching that film, which comes out in about 3 days. It's on Hulu, if you have that. It's also being out on theaters. And I'll give Shak the link to that book by the author. That's Jessica Bruder is her name.
Okay. All right, Rachel, do you have anything else, guys? David or Amy? If not, we'll go ahead into transportation.
I'd just like to add, you can't really look at the homeless or unhoused situation without looking at mental health too. Because, you know, a lot of times, people don't have homes, because of mental problems. So they go hand in hand. There's probably not too many unhoused people that don't have mental problems.
I think we would all probably agree with that, for sure. Okay. You're up.
I guess it's really, you know, we need to gauge the community, but are there transportation issues in our community? I mean, granted, our town is small enough, but it's not necessarily walkable. So are people able to access the places they need? And is there a broader need for transportation than, say, the elderly who need to get, you know, who can't drive anymore?
Is that
Well,
what the
MoCo will
feasibility study's
transport
for?
everybody.
MoCo transports everybody. It does
Oh.
not have to be just elderly. It can be anybody.
How much does it cost?
$5
I-
inside city
I don't
limits, I
know.
believe.
And what hours do they operate?
They, between 7 and 4 right now, unless you have an appointment that you have to be at a doctor's appointment, say in Durango, they actually will transport to Durango. And she just told me this the other day, but it's pretty broad. where they
And
will or will not
she
go.
is in the process of applying for grants that will help us to get a fixed route that will stop at, you know, some of the places that they determine that are the most needful, like Walmart, City Market, and it'll also be a fixed route through Mancus and Dolores with fixed stops and times, and hopefully a meet-at location to meet with Durango Public Transportation as well. And so Jennifer will be keeping us up to date as we work on that, but that is all in the works for this year.
And she has that grant already from CDOT, so it's a matter
Correct.
of
The first part of it's a feasibility study.
feasibility
so-
study of
That would address-
what
Yeah.
what can she or can she not do with the fixed route.
What makes sense? Okay. When you say 7 to 4, is that Monday through Friday, or does that include the weekends?
It's on the website, so I don't want to speak
Okay.
just off the cuff because I really don't know. I think right now it is actually probably Monday through Friday, but I don't want to say that it is on the website.
So it is on the website as 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Dispatch reservation hours are from 8 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. And the phone number for all of those listening out in YouTube land is 970-564-2773.
But again,
Monday through Friday?
it is not for everybody out there listening, and we did last week kind of a little presentation on it. It is not just for the elderly. So you don't have to be elderly to ride it. So
I think maybe that misperception came from them always being parked in front of the senior center, maybe?
correct, and
Yeah.
it's no longer in front of the senior center. We actually moved it out. It's off of
Okay.
145,
Okay.
kind of out by the Road and Bridge Department right now. And the senior center is just the senior center along with public health on the south side of that.
So touching back to, I guess, the collaborative projects that the city county could work on together, this is, I think, one of them, because I know that, oh my gosh, what's her name? What's the transport director's?
Jennifer?
Jennifer, okay. Jennifer had tried to get one of the grants through the city, and we had talked about possibly looking at it as a budgetary item, like to help out with some aspect of that.
We saved $5,000 to contribute to that feasibility study.
I think the feasibility study within the grant process, Shak, I think we actually have that covered now. So that, I think that is in the process or will be in the process shortly, but that should take care of that entire feasibility study because it's county-wide. You know, the biggest part of it is going to be obviously in the city of Cortez. Like Shak said, between Walmart, City Market, the hospital, where they frequent most of the time, but still, again, without that feasibility study, we can't actually get a fixed route and the times for the fixed route. So I think more of your money might be better spent of how do we help to,
Sustain
you know,
it.
keep it funded
Yeah.
after the fact.
Correct. And then when the feasibility study comes back and they say, you know, it should stop at Walmart at this time and this place on Main Street at this time, and we come to the city council saying, hey, there's going to be bus stops. If we don't have, you know, 30 pages of requirements that we have to meet and hurdles to jump through, that'd be great.
And it might be something that can be expanded upon too, to weekends and stuff after we get it going.
I think that there's a need coming from the populations that I've worked with in the past and currently. Like, I think that there's a desperate need to have a fixed route, and I think it'd be a great improvement for our community.
And that's part of that feasibility study, because it's going to give us the days of operation, the times. It'll be laid out for everything. So as soon as we get that back, then we'll know what to expand to.
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest problems they have is drivers.
Yep.
People being able to pass drug tests, you know, and hold the driver's license and show up.
I wanted to add that MoCo is able to transport people with handicaps, people in wheelchairs. Most of the buses have hydraulic lifts on them, and the vans have ramps, and the drivers are trained to assist these patrons to getting in the vehicles and tying them down and then untying them and getting onto the street. It's a very good system. They have good equipment. I worked for MoCo as a driver for 8 years after I retired from the post office, so it's a good operation.
Do the buses have bike racks?
Actually,
No.
I do think they are in the process right now of purchasing some bike racks. That was brought to us probably 4 or 5 months ago
During the budget.
during our budget process. So I want to say that a couple of the new ones do have bike racks. So
Or will have, I don't think they
or
do.
will have,
Okay.
so that they can actually jump on that, go somewhere else, and then that gets them farther down the road. So yes, we are looking at that, and we're trying to accommodate every multimodal function for transportation.
Did you have something to say?
I would like to see a push from, I really, this is an education piece, so I don't know how much any of these boards can do other than support the idea. But when it comes to having a work-ready workforce, we push kids to get degrees in engineering and whatever, and a lot of that gets outsourced now. If there was something we could do locally to push more of an apprenticeship type program and get people ready to go back to work. I mean, which of you have ever outsourced your heating, air conditioning, plumbing, or electrical needs or mechanical needs to Pakistan? Nobody. When you need an electrician or plumber or a haircut, you got to get it here.
But I outsource tech support and it goes to Pakistan, I'm pretty sure.
Correct. So I don't know what these boards can do to push for more of apprenticeship style education, but I think it'd be a good help if they could.
Push more vocational training.
Yeah, when we lost the VOTEC school, we lost some of that.
It sounds like we need to build a better relationship with PCC then and see what their ideas are and what they're expanding into, because they did add the agro-business classes. I don't know if it's a degree, but it seems like they're thinking about the need in the community and what kind of jobs there are and what kind of training they'd want to do.
Well, it
So-
seems to me one thing we could do is host a meeting, either the city or the county could, with some of the major employers like Empire Electric, Kinder Morgan, the hospital, Ironwood, and PCC, and say, what are the actual needs of our work market, our workforce? we could host the meeting. We can't make policies for any
Does
of them.
PCC have a high school program anymore
I-
for their juniors and seniors?
Dual credit, like
Yes.
dual enrollment. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, what else? Gentlemen?
PCC has a good welding program. They have a law enforcement academy there. So they're, you know, they're on the money in a few spots there. Going back to MoCo, we used to transport people out to the PCC for classes. We drop them off there and pick them up when they're finished with their classes. So that's another area where transportation is important. It kind of goes hand in hand with the job training, being able to get to the training and get to your jobs too.
I want to say that, like, within the last year, like, I've looked at the course catalog for PCC, and I want to say that there have been, like, HVAC classes and stuff like that. So, like, more along those trades. But I don't know how many people actually engage in those classes.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have any of that data, but that could be another conversation also,
Right.
because I do agree with Commissioner Stevenson that the vocational training, those trades are all kind of drifting away, and we actually need to bring them back because everybody needs plumbers, electricians, HVAC, welders, nurses. I think they do have part of that as far as their program out there also. So obviously we've seen that through COVID.
I want to propose that, like, if we have meetings specifically dedicated to, like, let's say each of these subjects, that we bring in subject matter experts to talk to us and make sure we're fully informed of the situation.
I'm good with that. You can pick a topic. I'll let you guys pick a topic at our next quarterly meeting. Maybe that's all we talk about, and we drive forward with that, and then whoever you would like to bring in, and then we approach it. Like Mr. Rainey said, you know, let's start with the plan, and then we'll get going with it.
Yep.
So I actually have a couple questions now. This was actually brought up by our sheriff this morning. And I'm not, you know, we've been having conversations in the last, 6-9 months with an audit for the dispatch center. And I was kind of wondering, where are we at with that so that we can actually see where we're at with our fees? Can any of you talk to that matter?
Do we have John on here, city manager?
Twice.
His name's up there. John, are you there? I think John would be the one that has the expertise in that area.
Okay, well, if you guys could at least follow that question, you know, and get us something back, because I think that is something that benefits both of us, since your agency and our agency are the two highest users of the dispatch center. I think we're both like 39 or 40%. But we don't have an audit of that, and that does not have to be specific to any of your other audits because it's separate. So if we could get that implemented, and I mean, we can pick an auditor together, or how do you want to go about that? But I would like to see that get done sooner than later, because I think it's just dragging on.
And
I think
Chairman,
we
I'd
need
like to
have-
underscore the importance of that, because many of the things we've talked about, the community response between Axis and clinicians, will go through the dispatch center. A lot of responding to the populations experiencing homelessness go through that dispatch center. A lot of the substance abuse goes through that dispatch center. So I think for many of the combined stated goals of both boards, I think it's important to get it done.
So that's question number one, and I think that's more of just a question. I know you guys can't really answer that right now. The other one is on the same subject, and back to kind of what you asked earlier, is allocation of funds. So within your tax structure, because of the percentage of calls that we are both responding to, which are either drug or alcohol related, I think this is a perfect example of you guys could allocate, I don't know what you bring in off of that specifically, but through the alcohol and
Taxes,
marijuana shops for the taxes, why can't we allocate that, a percentage of it, just to that dispatch center, because we're all dealing with it, and that's the contributing factor. And I don't know if you allocate those funds right now, but if you would at least look at that and see if we can't come up with a percentage that you can allocate to that.
Well, that's something good to consider just as we're looking into implementing a city, like we're looking into discussing a city marijuana tax because we don't currently have one. So it's a good thing to bring up, something for us to consider. And I think that it should be equitable if it's a shared user service, so.
Commissioners, John Doherty's back online. If you wanted to address a question about the dispatch to him.
Yeah, John, my question was basically, where do we stand with the audit for the dispatch center? We had talked about that, I don't know, on one of the last two meetings, if we are in the process of getting that done, or if we need to come up with collectively pick an auditor and then get that audit squared away so that we know how to proceed with some of the fees to the dispatch center.
I gave Lori the 2016 audit, and then 2017 is obviously yet to be done. I was told they cannot do a single audit of just the dispatch center. Because our books are such a mess, it's going to have to take everything. That's why there hasn't been a single audit for just the dispatch.
Okay, so then your current to 2017, and then what is your anticipation of a time frame to be complete?
The council is going to be choosing the auditor, I believe next week, and then they say they can do it quicker than what our consultant, or I believe they can get it done. But right now, 2017 will be the holdup, and then after that, it will be pretty much on the auditors to dedicate the staff to it, because 18, 19 have been cleaned up, as far as we can tell. 16 was too big of a mess. We tried, and it just got tossed out and re-entered, and she's doing pretty much the same thing in 17.
Okay.
So I hope there isn't anybody else on here, because I hate to make guesses. We're really shooting for getting up to 20 caught up this year. So 17, 18, and 19, we're hoping will be done before the end of this year.
Okay, kind of gives us a time frame there.
Commissioner Candelaria, you looked very concentrated when I was talking earlier. What were you thinking?
Oh, I mean, there's a lot of things that I'm thinking here, because one of the things that we also face with a jail, because we operate and run a jail, is space and availability. So for us, these fees are kind of a big deal to us, because as these fees elevate, it just takes away from budgetary items of where we're trying to move. And again, we're waiting for the legislature of things that happened this year. What did the sheriff say this morning? He said if it passes that Maybe, John, you can help me out here. What did the sheriff say as to, it was municipal holds that they're possibly, they basically would be in and out in a short period of time and not necessarily being held, but.
They're going to be state charges, I think is what he said.
Yeah, I think so. John, if you want to elaborate on that?
Right. Well, I think my understanding of what the sheriff said is that there's draft legislation that, if it passes, will preclude municipal code from being arrestable offenses. And so basically, they're all going to be fine only. They won't be processed through the jail. What that means, though, in real life, is that if CPD is making an arrest or, responding to some call, is they may end up charging them, as opposed to with a municipal code violation, with a state ordinance violation. So then they would get processed through the jail.
Okay.
Did I answer that?
You did for me. I just kind of want to make them aware of that. I think it's something that they need to be aware of. So again, that affects us kind of within our jail also. But really the bigger question is just what can you allocate through that tax that you guys already have, if you can put a percentage of it towards that dispatch center, which keeps the user's fees more in line or better, so that, because really the people that are using or creating these calls should really be paying for it. So it's just a question as you guys start your process again of what you can and cannot do. But, back to the audit, we kind of really have to have an audit to see where things are cleaned up. So I think it's paramount that we try and get this cleaned up. So. Gentlemen?
That was the question I had.
Well, I'd like to chime in here since amidst all the crickets chirping, I am a resident of the city of Cortez, and I just want to give a shout out to your Public Works Department. As a lot of you know, I often run around the city of Cortez in the wee early hours of the morning in the dark, and your crew that removes snow and does the street sweeping during the summer is always exceptionally courteous when they see me coming. Granted, I'm wearing a headlight and a safety vest, but they always stop the motors on their street sweepers or move out of the way with the plows and allow me to get out of the way of the spray. And your public works crew is incredibly courteous to those of us out using the roads at those hours. And so I want to give a shout out to them and many thanks. The same is also true for your sanitation crew out picking up the refuse from the city. So I appreciate the courtesy and tact with which they conduct their business.
It's good to hear.
Thank you, Shak. We'll pass the word on to the appropriate people. Appreciate it.
I have one more question here, and this was brought to me. I think last year, and it's probably not a fair question to maybe just Mike, Mayor Levy, along with water issues that we are dealing with, we're going to be dealing with the WSAs within our jurisdiction. Last year, I guess basically, what is your position this year on a WSA? Because this is absolutely a new council, which is a wilderness study area. Where do you guys stand right now? Because last year you wrote a letter in favor of that. Is that correct, Mike?
That's correct, yes.
So here's one of those things, if that's still the pleasure of this council or not.
See, we're having a retreat this week, and that's a subject we can bring up.
Because I think it would benefit us to be on the same page. We are obviously not in favor of this WSA as it stands right now, and that's per the recommendation of the BLM, that it doesn't meet the criteria of a wilderness area. So we would really like to see it deleted from that bill, and would like to have the municipality stand with us as we are the agency that deals with the BLM, the Forest Service, and so on. It's kind of a big deal to us, so I definitely would like to see you guys research that.
Is this specifically the Weber?
This would be, yes, Weber,
Weber and
Menifee,
Menifee.
that area right there. That's
Okay.
this WSA has been in effect for, I believe, right at 40 years, where the wilderness study area was initially supposed to be a 5-year period of time, and it has gone on way longer than that. And then the BLM's response to it was it did not meet the criteria of a wilderness area, and then to get rid of it. But as we get congressional pressure on us, there's really no advantages to us here. So I just, you don't have to answer it now at your retreat. If you guys can discuss that, I'd really like to see us on the same page. But that documentation is out there from the BLM. If you need to talk to Connie Clemenson, she can send you all the documentation also. But it just doesn't make a lot of sense. And I don't want to be, two different municipalities or the county and the city opposing. I think it's specifically in the county, and would like your support.
Yeah, I'd encourage the council to, do some homework and read up about the WSA study in this area.
And again, you can get all that. I believe it's online, and if not, Connie is more than happy to send you guys all that documentation so that you can read why it did not meet the criteria, and hopefully we can get it off of that designation.
Thank you.
Anything else, guys?
No, I'm good.
We just need to do all we can do to work together for our community. We are one community, and we should all be working together.
Try to get things back to normal as we can. Which
Takes
is very,
teamwork to make the dream work.
Absolutely.
And I think it's fair to say that we're probably not always going to see eye to eye.
oh, no.
But as long as we,
But as long as we stay at the table and
Keep
talk to
talking.
each other,
Mhm.
it
That's
can be
important.
worked through.
yeah.
I think that, and again, thank all of you for being here. I think it's okay. I think it's healthy to agree to disagree, but at least have a reason why we're disagreeing. If not, let's move forward in a collective manner and get some things done. And I think.
I agree.
I don't have anything else of notes that I have.
Will this be our standing meeting quarterly, or do we want to set a specific?
I would like to continue our quarterly breakfast meetings. I know that I've met with Mayor Levy in the past when we were doing them. And then obviously we kind of got shut down, but I don't think we even have to, if we need to meet sooner than quarterly, I definitely think that we should do it if we find something that we can work on together, because it's all part of a plan, like Mr. Rainey stated, and the quicker we get the plan together, we can implement something, because our businesses, our people here need to get going as soon as possible, and I think it's our jobs to get things out of their way to get them moving as quickly as we can.
I agree, and just so everybody's aware, Mancus has offered to host the next quarterly breakfast at their community center, have it catered in, and that leaves plenty of room for distancing.
Which actually, I think, Mayor Levy, that's the last one that we had last year in the middle of the summer, wasn't it? We were in
Right,
Memphis.
yeah, the Absolute Bakery, I believe, catered it.
Yep.
They have some pretty good food there.
Great food. So, yeah, definitely, I want to get going back with you guys and and get things moving as soon as
And I'd
possible.
like to invite one of our staffers that's in the room to come speak for a moment about an issue that addresses, that affects all the municipalities and the county. So Jim. Yeah, you can use Rachel's. That way they can see who you are. He's the guy that sends you all the emails.
Sorry to bother everybody. I think it's advantageous for this board and the council to meet. I guess you can still hear me. Because I have plans on an omnibus agreement, MOU, between city and county. I've talked on and off with your emergency manager, Lori. I have a draft of one that works pretty good for communities, but I think that would be, my opinion, would be a good start at this relationship of building, you know. And like you said, you don't have to agree on anything. This omnibus agreement has been looked at by, I think, 25 attorneys, and they all agree on it. But we
Then I
haven't
don't
given
like
it to
it.
John yet. And, but I would like to present it and start looking at it as just another project out there, if that's all right with everybody. I think it's something we can look at. You can say yay or nay, but I think it's time to get like an MOU between city and county for funding on emergencies, what we're gonna do, who pays for what. So you're not arguing over this after a disaster. You're kind of got it in writing. So I think that's a good way to go.
So that would involve all the municipalities, or?
It would be, we would start with county and city of Cortez,
Okay.
and then we would do county and Mancos. I think Heather's on board with that.
Okay.
And then Ken up in Dolores. I think they're all on board with that too. So, I think we would start with the big city and we kind of have ideas on how that would work. So I'd love to be part of that. And then, I'm sorry, Jim Spratlen, emergency manager for the county, which has cities and towns in it. So,
Do you have a draft then of something that we can
Yes.
read? Okay.
yeah, and if you'd like, I've got that draft, and I can send it out to everybody, send it to Shak, and you guys can, it's not 375 pages, so you're all right, but it is pretty long, so, something to play with, I think, be real helpful.
And then are you also looking for like city staff and city representatives to fill in like positions for EOC or any kind of those plans?
Sure.
Oh, you just volunteered?
I got some volunteers going on over here.
It's Rachel.
But yeah, I think we're all a team in the county, and anybody I can pick from to, fill an EOC or any emergency function, it's the way to go. Just borrow everybody. I need several on deck in case something happens, so. But I was just thinking about that. I had talked to Lori, and she's not here tonight, but we had decided sometime in 2021, we'd like to bring that up before the board and the council. See what you think. Start, something going on that, so.
Good.
Just an idea.
Okay. I think if you have that and you can send it out, we can actually maybe discuss it the next time we get together. If it's not the 400-page document you sent us last night.
Still reading on that one.
That's when you need to get one of those text to voice. Just listen to it.
Yeah. Again, I want to thank you all. I want to thank the city specifically. I mean, we had some pretty good projects that we were successful with last year. Our County Road J or 7th Street extension, I got to tell you, it's working out great. We get a lot of compliments from the lower valley of what it's taken the bus traffic off of Main Street. So I think that was a great project together. We didn't have the right of way. You guys were able to deed that to us. I think that was fantastic. Our evidence building is working out real well. We had our coroner in here this morning. They're able to do more there with it as far as autopsies. So some of that stuff is working out really well. And I think that was just part of being at the same meeting at the same time, how that worked. So I think I think we are working together, doing some good stuff. I think that it can get better and more creative as we go along. The fiber project is another good piece of that. I think, we'll be able to open up a lot to the city and the county, which really benefits all of us. So again, just a thank you to all of you guys, David, Mike, Amy, Linda, John, whoever else I'm missing up there, but Kim. And with that, I think that's all we have, unless you guys have anything else for the good of the county and the city.
No, just thank you for hosting us, and we look forward to working with all of you over the next year.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Yeah,
All
thank
right,
you.
thank you, guys.
All right. Thank you all.
I second that. Okay.
Good
Night,
night.
all. Good evening.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night. So long, farewell, I'll be to say good night. I hate to go,